I want you to think about the last time you opened a website or app on the internet. You're probably watching this video through one right now. Well, what if I told you you're not really connecting to the internet when using that website? Sounds crazy, but the reality is that you're connecting to a private company's server. That's the uncomfortable truth most people don't think about. The modern internet feels open, but underneath the surface, it's a highly centralized walled garden, controlled by a handful of companies. That means your messages, your posts, your files, and your identity all live inside massive data centers owned by some giant corporation. Take a moment to sit with that thought. Let's be clear though, that was not the original vision of the internet. The early internet, or Web 1 as it's known nowadays, was built as a distributed network designed to survive disruption by removing single points of failure. It was built as a network of independent machines that could route around failures instead of relying on one central hub. But over time, convenience and scale pulled everything back into centralized infrastructure. So now, instead of your computer being part of the network, it's mostly just a terminal accessing someone else's. That's where running a node changes everything. When you run a node, your computer isn't just consuming the internet. It becomes part of the infrastructure itself. It stores data, it validates transactions, and it communicates directly with other peers. In other words, it actually participates rather than just being a bystander in the infrastructure of the web. That shift is subtle but massive. Instead of connecting to a server, you connect to a network of individuals. Instead of trusting a platform to store and relay information, the network distributes that responsibility across users. This is where Web3, when implemented at the infrastructure level, becomes more than a financial experiment. It becomes an architectural revolution. Quick pause here. If you're interested in understanding how the internet itself is evolving, take a second to subscribe because this channel focuses on the structural shifts shaping the next version of the web. Now here's where Qortal comes into the picture. Qortal isn't just another app running on top of somebody else's infrastructure. It's a peer-to-peer network where users run nodes that collectively form the backbone of the system. The Qortal data network distributes publishing and storage across participants instead of routing everything through centralized servers. That means when you publish something on Qortal, it doesn't live in a company's cloud. It propagates through the network, so your machine becomes part of the fabric. So software like Qortal Hub, Qortal Go, or the browser extension isn't the internet itself. It's simply how you interact with the underlying blockchain infrastructure. That's a completely different model from today's web, where apps are the product and infrastructure is invisible and corporate controlled. So in this model, infrastructure is user-owned. Let me repeat that. The infrastructure becomes user-owned with Qortal. That's the biggest takeaway if there's anything to retain from this video. When thousands of individual machines contribute storage, validation, and connectivity, the network becomes harder to censor, harder to shut down, and much harder to manipulate. Instead of centralizing power in data centers, it distributes it across multiple participants in the network. This is the misconception most people have about Web3. They think it's about tokens or speculation, but the real revolution is infrastructural. It's about replacing server-client dependency with peer-to-peer participation. It's about turning passive users into active nodes. Once you understand that, running a node stops sounding technical and starts sounding foundational. You're not just installing software with Qortal. You're building a brand new layer of the internet. If you want to see what that actually looks like in practice, install Qortal today, run a node, and experience what it means to be part of the infrastructure instead of just a user on it. I'll see you in the next video.